What's up, guys? Welcome back to Daniel Talks Football right here on YouTube. I'm Daniel and we are back with the PL pod. It's been a long time. I don't know when the last one was, but Leicester were in the Premier League. No, we're not speaking about it anymore. In terms of the name, the PL pod plus one maybe, because yeah, look, Maresca's taken us on a title charge. It's going to be fine, hopefully. Yeah, but we're back. It's been a long summer. I obviously did take a, 2.5 week break at a certain point at the end of the season. I needed it. 230 videos odd in 300 days-ish. It's been an incredible year, and thank you for all the support on the channel. You know, I think we ended up reaching over 30,000 total views in a year, which for the first year of the channel isn't that bad. Considering, you know, it's, as I say, it's been an absolutely mental year. The exact number is 31,069. Nope, Emma, don't laugh. And you know, it's been an incredible year. So thank you for all the support during that. The support during the World Cup was insane, and the support, to be fair, just up until I stopped, was really good, which makes you think why I stopped. But I guess I needed it. We've got a very special guest on the line. I did plug it on the Instagram that we were going to be having a very special guest. Daniel Talks Football, if you're not already following it. Cheeky little plug. And it's a returning guest to the channel. Now, he's not under the same name as he was when he last came on. And that's not even because he's paused his account. That's because he got banned. Liam, what happened with Arsenal Fan Nation? The original account, not the new one.
RIP in pieces, is all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
No, so essentially... hello, by the way.
Yeah, hello, nice to see you again. Well, talk to you again.
Yeah, of course. Essentially, I had my last page when I came on here at about 50 something K.
Mm-hmm.
I was loving life, it was great. But yeah, it just got taken down based on copyright, and it was a bit confusing because with this page I was so careful with what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, so many pages post way worse stuff in terms of copyright.
Of course.
I felt very unlucky, but I think it was a case of essentially I had an account before this one that got taken down fairly for very copyrighted stuff, so I think it was just a case of knowing my IP and it just got taken down. It's a shame, but I guess what, mate? I've learned about this thing called touching grass and getting a life, and it is quite lovely. You know, I'm spending my days and my nights doing anything else but making transfer edits on my laptop. So it's quite nice to see transfer rumours and not have to give 30 million updates on whether Declan Rice is getting paid 105 grand a week or 300 grand a week. Yeah,
indeed.
So,
Indeed, yeah, and it's good to have you back on, of course. You do have a new page, I will quickly plug AFC Fan Nation 2. Is he on a break? Yes, as he says. He's learnt what grass is, which I congratulate you on. I'm still learning, don't particularly see it much. I'm either in here or at the gym, as we all know. Yes, I go to the gym 5 times a week. No, this is the wrong account for that. Daniel Trains on Instagram. Is that the first time I've said it on Danny Talks Football? Possibly. 3 minutes into the first podcast back and we've already gone off topic. Classic Daniel Talks Football things.
Standard.
Absolutely, mate. We are here to talk about Arsenal. How much talk there actually is on Arsenal, we will see. It's quite late. It's 9:20. Reasons for that, Liam?
Well, essentially, we live in completely different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So it can get slightly confusing when we set up the times. And when it must have only just been a few days ago when we set up exactly what time we're going to be recording. And at that point, there was a 12-hour difference. So I was like, okay, make sure I'm up and ready to go at 8 o'clock. Turns out in the last, week or so maybe, there's been a time change in the UK. I don't know
when our time change happened. I can find out for you. To be fair, it might not have been last week. I have no idea. When was the last time change? It's definitely been since we last recorded, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, 26th of March. So, no, 26th of March, is that right? Yeah, 26th of March. When did we last record?
I think it was
Maybe
later
we're
than
just
that,
stupid.
So.
Either way. It's 9 o'clock here. And, yeah. We got it an hour on. So it's one of them. But we're here. We're ready to go. And let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. We'll get not straight into it. We've been waffling for 5 minutes. We will get into it with Arsenal, your club. Yeah, there will be a Leicester rant. How long are we giving it until there's another Leicester rant on the channel? Because they were quite frequent last year. Because I needed something to do because we were so depressing to watch. How long do we think we'll give it to another one? And will it be after the first game of the season?
I think 30 seconds, to be honest. As soon as I mention anything about our midfield, you say, we should have sold Tielemans to Arsenal for 10 million, and then it's just, it's going to get off it. I'm not giving you much of a chance.
We could have sold you to Tielemans for a bag of Walker's crisps, to be honest. I would have taken it. It's more than we got from Villa. Right, for those who have been living under a rock, and it would have to be a pretty big one, because Arsenal fans did not shut up about it, how has the season gone for Arsenal?
Well, I hope you're not talking about me, but...
I'm talking about every Arsenal fan, because we did not shut up.
No, fair enough. And I think rightly so, though, because we've been through the absolute... We've been through the trenches. And I don't think any Arsenal fan really expected us to have the season we did. No, not at all. I think... I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of predictions and from other fans, especially, who always seem to think that every team will get better besides Arsenal. And we're going to fall away into the abyss and somehow get relegated or something. And then Chelsea will probably get first this season.
You can meet us in the Championship if you want, mate.
Sounds great, mate. I mean, I do fancy signing Harry Winks-esque players.
Yes.
Anyways, let's not
Arsenal.
get off track again.
Okay, yes.
I think straight away at the start of last pre-season, we had some awesome games. We played Chelsea a bit of 4-0, and then we came back to the Emirates Cup game against Sevilla and won about 6-0. And you couldn't have started off... And it felt like the start of the season because of how well it went. You know, obviously a lot of people will discount pre-season, but I think because of the brand new way we were playing football with Zinchenko inverted, we'd never seen that before. Gabriel Jesus, a striker that can actually run for more than 30 minutes without needing a dose of KFC or something, you know. Not naming any names about a certain French striker who's now somehow top scorer in his league after scoring about 2 goals for us.
How did that happen?
I don't know, and it makes me discount a lot about what Balakin's done, as much as I think he's a very good player. But anyways, very easy to get put off track here, but
That's what I do.
Where was I? Oh yeah, and then I think it was a brilliant season. You know, we really transformed the way we play now. Brought in the new players and Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, some real leaders, some proven players that have been there and done it in the Premier League and in domestic cups, you know. Overall, very, very good season that I don't think many Arsenal fans were expecting. No,
not at all. And I would definitely say it's been a good season. That is sort of what I'm moving on to next, because now you've had time to reflect on the season. Where would you put it 1 to 10? And there's 2 different ratings for this, and they're obviously going to be quite different. First of all, at the start of the season, Arsenal fans were saying, if we can get top 4, it's been a good season, we'll take that absolutely. And then the second rating to probably come, where should we put it? January, February time, when you were top of the table. Everybody was saying, they're going to bottle it. A lot of people were saying they were going to bottle it. And even Arsenal fans, they had hope that you weren't, but I still feel like there's a bit of a trepidation. Yet with any other club, you'd be going, we're 10 points clear at the top of the table, however much it was. We're going to be fine. No other club at 10 points in front goes, I'm not sure if we're going to do this. Man City could still be the favourites. How would you sort of look back on the season now it's done, and what sort of ratings would you give it?
I mean, obviously, first half of the season, you couldn't have had any better. So, 10 out of 10, unless we won. You can't expect to win every game. So, that was unreal. I don't think anyone expected us to even be in the conversation with Man City. Which comes to my second rating, and I think you're right. I don't think many fans about any other team would say, that I'm not sure if they're going to win it still. But I also think there is a certain not agenda, but
no, there isn't agenda.
No, I wouldn't say it's agenda. That's the wrong word. But people have this idea of Arsenal that they're bosslers, and because of the way the end of last season happened. But I think so much context is left out. when someone just says bottlers, you know what I mean? Like, it's a term that people can use, obviously, to banter Arsenal fans, and I get that. But I think from a professional standpoint, like, when you hear pundits talking about bottling, I think, come on, man. Like there's so much more to it than Arsenal bottling it. You know, if you look at the squad that Man City have, the depth that they had in comparison to us last season, you know, as soon as we lost William Saliba and Tomiyasu, we had Rob Holding in the back line, you know, and he was a disaster. As much as a lovely guy, I'm proud of him and his trim, and I know we talked a good 10 minutes about his trim in the last podcast.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
It's just coming to me now. You know, that was a great comeback, but I mean, he couldn't bring us back to win the league. And, I'm still pretty proud of the way we hung in there for most of the end of the season. You know, I know you said from January onwards, and then you got to say from January to March, it still went very well. We had some unreal moments there. You know, we had that brilliant win against Bournemouth and against Aston Villa. And we had some awesome moments in there. 2-0 away win at Spurs. We won that last minute winner against Man United, Eddie Nketiah. There was so many moments, so many memorable moments. Yeah, Martinez own goal. I don't think that was just like perfectly scripted, that goal.
Yeah, it was incredible.
You know, the way that he time wasted for the second half, the fact that his connection to Arsenal, the way Arsenal fans absolutely hate his guts now, and then it bounces off his head and back into the net.
That's a strange one because
I thought that was common knowledge, to be honest, but maybe it's just an Arsenal thing.
It may have gone over my head, but no, I thought he seemed to be alright for you lot for quite a while. He won you the FA Cup, I want to say.
Yeah, so what happened? Yeah, no, he had a great, he had that 6 months where he was brilliant when Leno got injured and he got his move. But the issue is, as soon as he left and joined Aston Villa, he just could not stop talking rubbish about Arsenal. Yeah. He was like, in every interview, he was talking about how Arsenal never gave him his chance, and as if like a few seasons ago he wasn't on loan at Reading because he was a bang average goalkeeper until that.
It's one of them. I think I don't like him.
Yeah.
He wasn't ever particularly nice to Leicester either. So, because he played for Villa. To be fair, speaking about people who aren't particularly nice to Leicester, I don't particularly like Ramsdale either. But because of certain moments before, still saving that James Maddison free kick 2 years ago, still really annoys me because that was a flipping incredible save.
I'll tell you what, though, there's a love-hate relationship. You know, it's Leicester giving it to him and he's laughing back.
I respect it. I just hate it.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I respect a lot of people for what they do. I respect Troy Deeney. Doesn't mean I don't physically hate him with every bone of my body for making 7-year-old Daniel cry for scoring a last-minute playoff semi-final goal to take Watford through to the final. I'm not going to go into it again.
Oh my word! For a second, I just wanted to say, I heard him say that he made 7-year-old Daniel cry, and I just I completely forgot the context. And I was like, "What has he done to you?"
Actually, to be fair, it did feel quite personal. I don't like you, Troy. If you're listening, feel free to come on, but it won't be a nice experience for you. You spoke about bottling, and that's obviously something that every let's be honest, if you ask any club sets of fans, bar Man City, most of them will say they're bottlers. Like, we're bottlers. We were in the top 4 for 2 seasons in a row for like most of the year until like the final 2 games when we dropped out of it. Cheers, Rodgers. Again, don't like you. We've already spoken about him before recording, but Brendan, thank you for going. I don't know if I've recorded the podcast since. In fact, no, I have. I'm pretty sure when you came on, it was like 4 days after Rodgers had been sacked.
Yeah, I think it just leads. You're in great, graceful mode.
Yeah, and I was still very, very happy at that point. Then Dean Smith came in, and yeah, cheers, Dean. But moving on, because I just don't like this football club. As I don't think you probably have at certain points with Arsenal. Well, in fact, I know you haven't. If you're bad, you don't like them, yet you still love them. We will touch on transfers more later, because there's a lot of transfers going Arsenal right now. You know, you're signing a bag of rice for 105 million, which I still really find confusing. Go get them from Tesco
Cost of living crisis is mad, isn't
exactly. You know, if you get a club card, I'm sure you can get it from Tesco for what, 85p. Don't know. Yeah. Someone needs to have a word with Edu, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure it's just the inflation in there. I'm pretty sure it's just
the
price of rice now.
I mean, you know, you're gonna have you'll have, you know what, Rob Holding walking into the canteen on a first day of pre-season going, why have we spent 105 million on this rice? It tastes just as normal. Yeah. We will touch on transfers more later, but for Arsenal, do you think the aim is to continue to try and push those top sides? Man City, Chelsea, if they can rebound like everybody is expecting them to. Liverpool, if these midfield signings of Szoboszlai and McAllister come off. Is the aim to continue to push for that title and probably try and go win it? Or do we think the aim is to sort of middle back in with the top four? Because you look at the signings and they are very ambitious signings. The issue is, every club is making ambitious signings, and if you weren't even to make these ambitious signings, I'd then be worried about your place in the top four, because it's going to get so much stronger. Newcastle are doing the stuff they're doing as well. So do you think the aim is to continue to try and become a title challenger long term, or is settling into top four what you would expect and what the club would expect for the next couple of years before then trying to push
on? Listen, as an Arsenal fan, that has to be the goal. You have to go for titles. You know, that is the expectation of this club. As much as it's been in the bin for the last 10 years, to be honest, we've not
for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've really been up there consistently, and people taking us really seriously. And I think that is a massive reason as to why the narrative is what it is with Arsenal and bottling and things. People don't really take us seriously, even though we were brilliant last season, and people like to paint us as bottlers and act like we weren't absolutely excellent for most of the season. But yeah, one thing I do like to say is that not every team is going to go get better. Like, I mean, they might get a bit better, but almost every season, at the end of the season, people go, "Oh well, Chelsea will be back, Tottenham will be back."
Yeah, of course.
Like everyone says, everyone's going to be way better, but almost definitely never happens.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost one of those. Like last season, people were talking about Chelsea for the league, and then they finished 12th. You know, so. You know, everyone was like Koulibaly was going to be...
Well, 12 million on João Felix in January. Even at that point, people were still going, this could be a signing that will take him to the Champions League. Like, going out, picking up people like, that could take him to the Champions League. No, it took them to 12th.
I think they literally went down from there, so...
Yeah. Happens to the best of us.
No, I think... I think of course Arsenal have to go for trophies, and the signings that they've made, obviously we'll talk about those a bit more later, but they're very ambitious. And yeah, we just kind of have to focus on what we're doing and on ourselves, because we're on the right track. We were the ones that were 5 points off Man City by the end of the season, and you know we were a good 9 or 10 points away from Newcastle, 15 points away from United, and to be honest, they have their own things to fight for. Like you know, Newcastle have to battle Champions League football for the first time in, I don't even know, a millennium. And then, and Man United have yet to convince me at all that they're going to be making any big transfers that are really going to push them ahead. I know Mason Mount's a very good player. I'm not sure he exactly fits into like a Mount Fernandes Casemiro midfield. Just doesn't seem very It is, and there's just not very much ball retention in that team. You know, I mean, Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes, they love a cross, and it doesn't convince me that any of them are going to be, like, you know, playing it like, you know, real tiki-taka footy. And there's Casemiro.
You need a Caicedo in there, really, don't you? Like, that would have been the more sensible signing than going out and getting Mount, not to go too off track from Arsenal, as always. But to get a Caicedo or to get a McAllister, or, you know, any of these sort of... They've signed another attacking midfielder, let's be honest here. Yes, Mount, you know, might want to play the 8 role, but is he that good as an 8 to be able to do the defensive work that you would need? Casemiro is ageing as well, you know, it doesn't particularly make sense. I see why they've done it, but it doesn't particularly make sense. Arteta. Right.
Yeah.
His footballing philosophy. How much of it do we think he got from Pep? Just focus on Arsenal, you know, no other reasons to ask about, you know, Arteta's footballing philosophy and, you know, how good Pep is going to be, as, you know, managing to coach people, You know, it's not like the person who currently manages my football club is also bold and has just had a season under Pep Guardiola. That's nothing to do with it. And so, Maresca, I love you. Please don't fail. But how do we think, you know, Pep has sort of moulded Arteta's footballing philosophy? How much has Arteta sort of learnt himself? Because obviously, you know, you look at what happened since Arteta took over to where he is now. Things have changed on that side. How much do you think that is down to Pep, and how much of that do you think is down to Arteta just being a good manager?
I mean, yeah, it'd be silly to suggest that Pep's had no impact on Arteta, and because of course, like if you're working with Pep Guardiola for 4 seasons, or 4 or 5 seasons, I'm not sure how long it was, but a long time, it's going to have a massive impact on some part of your life, whether it's managerial, whether it's, you know, shaving your head by the time you're 50. I don't know how that would look on Arteta, but
I want to see it. I want to see it now.
Yeah, no, just fully become Pep. Pep beating Pep.
Start talking to nobody on the bench as well. Just talk to an empty seat as well, and it'll be fully
really replicated. But if I'm being completely honest, and I'm Pep's. If you ever hear him talking about Arteta, he's just he really does praise him, and he takes very little credit for what Arteta has become. And he said when he first came in, he's always had this football mind. So I'd say for anyone out there that may be interested in the effect of an assistant coach in Pep Guardiola, I'm not sure who that could be. I would say
no idea.
It is more important to be on the individual. You know, like there's only so much Pep Guardiola can do. With an assistant manager, you know, if it was me or you as their assistant manager, I don't think we're going to do what Mikel Arteta's done.
I don't know.
I mean, hey, I love some of the predicted lineups I've made in my past, but you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to talk about those, but had some pretty shocking ones in past times.
I mean, my biggest one that I always mention, because, you know, I have had some transfer stinkers, but I did say that Leicester should sign Haaland. Where was he at before he signed for Salzburg? Was it Mulder?
Malmo? That's it.
Whichever one it was.
Mulder.
I said we should sign him when he was there. And that is saying something. So it's not even like it was at Salzburg. When he was at wherever he was before that, I said we should sign him from there. They wanted like 4 million. We were never interested, obviously. But I said we should do it. That is...
I imagine that was after the Under-20 World Cup when he scored about 9 goals in a game.
I actually think it was before that. I think.
Wow. Okay, fair enough.
Let's be honest. Did I just see somebody called Haaland and thought, oh, there was a Haaland that used to play in the Premier League, we should sign him? Possibly. But still, I said it.
Don't talk about that. Don't say that.
And that's all that matters. Have I also had some absolute stinkers? Yes. Do I remember the stinkers? Not particularly. I said we should sign Jared Bowen. I remember saying that when he was at Hull. I was like, we really need to get on him for this guy. We didn't, of course. We're Leicester City. When do we ever sign good right wingers? Seriously starting to annoy me now. But no, you know, yeah, make me Pep's assistant, and then I'll go to Leicester. I'll do what Maresca does once Maresca leaves to go to a bigger club. Or no, he won't actually. He'll sign a lifetime contract here.
Of course.
What will end up happening is actually he'll manage City and Pep will come and manage us. Because they look similar enough. They're both bold. Who else will notice anything?
Sure. What I would say, by the way, on that is that I'm not suggesting that they won't learn anything from Pep.
Oh, of course, no. It is down to the manager, of course.
I think what he would have learned most from Pep, and what I think I said has probably benefited most from, is just the mentality and
that's
the
what I hope.
You start up that mentality in a team, and the way you curate it, you create a culture. That was the biggest thing I think Arteta. That's the biggest thing he did. You know, is create that.
We're seeing Maresca do it as well,
and revitalise the fan base, which seems like something that Leicester fans might need.
We're seeing Maresca do it already. The way he's focusing on the fans, saying how important we are, all of this kind of stuff. You know, we also watched an Emmanuel Pellegrini before at West Ham. Did have a 14-game spell at Parma, which he only won 4 games of. But we don't speak about that because since he's at Pep. But no, looking ahead, back to the red side. Yeah, because red's pretty better than blue at this point, isn't it? Actually, I will ask you that because I'm interested. Red or blue for football, like just in general, which do you think is the better colour? You could throw white in there as well because
what.
of Real Madrid, but I know you won't because it's Spurs.
I tell you what, this may sound outrageous, but one of my favourite colours is actually light blue, and I know it's been quite a hard year for my fashion because I've got quite a lot of nice light blue tees. And you could not make me wear them after Arsenal have lost. I'd feel so guilty. So I'd say obviously overall I've got to say red, especially for football. Especially because even though I was speaking to you offline beforehand, my dad's a Liverpool fan, and I don't support Liverpool, but I don't hate them as much as I do the rest of the top six generally. So for sure red.
For sure red. Am I gonna go? Can I go blue? You've got Man City there, got PSG there with all the excellent European trophies they've won. To be fair. Yeah. Moving on.
They've also got red in their kit for the record, so.
Yeah, but it's blue, isn't
it? yeah.
If we're saying if we're saying that, I'm sure there'll be a speck.
We've got blue in our badge, So.
You've got blue in your badge, exactly. Yeah, it probably does have to be red, doesn't it? But I'm not going to say that blue is clear because the blue managers are always better than the red managers. Look at the managers managing the blue teams. Then you got Pep Guardiola, you got Mauricio Pochettino, you got those two.
Mikel Arteta, Eric Ten Hag.
I'm taking Pep over every single one combined.
The legend Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth, who was just outrageously sacked.
I see why they've done it. We'll talk about it off. It's not about Bournemouth. And I know people will be getting annoyed. Because to us, I probably would be as well. But no, Gary O'Neill, I haven't spoken about that, so that is actually outrageous. I see why they've done it. New owners want to play good football, and nobody wants Gary O'Neill managing the football club. But he did a great job. Deserves a good job in the Championship now. I don't know who he'll go to, but I want him to I can see him going to maybe a Swansea or something like that, do well there, and then hopefully, get another Premier League job because he deserves it. Looking ahead, Arsenal next season. What's a successful season, and what do you actually expect to end up happening? A successful season, as you've said, would be challenging for the title. Do you expect you to be challenging? Do you even expect you to finish top four? What about the European trophies? What are your expectations for Arsenal next season?
Listen, I definitely expect us. We've got to challenge for it. I've heard a lot of people saying because we've spent this 100 million on Rice, whatever. We've got to expect to win the league, I think that's ridiculous. Come on, look. Obviously, I think our expectations will definitely raise now because we've had such a good season and we are spending money, so that's going to happen. But I don't think we should expect to win the league in a season where we're in the Champions League for the first time in 5 or 6 years, and. Yeah, I think our focus, sort of what you said before, is we definitely have to consolidate top four, but we've got a challenge for the league. I'd be disappointed if we didn't finish in the top two, really disappointed, because I think we're better than, we're a good distance better than the other teams behind us at the moment, and we've improved on that team, and we gave City a really good run, and we've got more depth now. And I suppose in the Champions League, I'm almost just happy to be there, but I'd be very disappointed to not get through the group stage. So I'd say get through the group stage. Hopefully, ideally, I'd say quarterfinals. Anything before quarterfinals with the team we've got would be disappointing. I think because we've got, as much as we haven't been in the Champions League, for a fair bit, but we've got a squad that can. We've got a squad that competed with the treble winners last season who won the Champions League. So we should be getting around the quarterfinals based on the squad alone. For sure. I think getting to the quarterfinals in the Champions League, finishing second at least in the Premier League, and I think a bit of silverware would be nice, even if it is just a Carabao Cup or a FA Cup, just to shut up those United fans who tried to say that they had a better season than us last season. Which is just simply outrageous after facing... I think Nottingham Forest was their hardest game before the final in the Carabao Cup run. So
I've got one that's even tops that. I've seen. I just want to hear you react to this. I've seen one of those podcasts, one of those ones you see on your For You page, say that West Ham United have had a better season than Arsenal because they've won a trophy.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I mean, fair enough to West Ham fans, but
Where did West Ham finish again? Wasn't it 14th?
I think 14th. Yeah. Listen, I think I understand where they're coming from in terms of like for them that is a comparatively maybe a better season, because how often do West Ham win a trophy, a little European trophy? That's arguably one of their best seasons ever. So comparatively, it actually probably is in terms of Arsenal fans have won Premier League titles, plenty of cups, you know. So maybe for them it probably does feel slightly better, despite how terribly they did in the Premier League. It definitely ended better. They were terrible in the Premier League this season, so I'm not sure you can compare that. But maybe the euphoria at the end of the season was certainly better than the way we ended ours. So yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. Right. Well, there we go. There was a 31-minute section on. I don't really know what I can call that, because how much of that was actually Arsenal? A 31-minute section on football. We'll take a short break here before we come back to speak about the Arsenal new signings. Right, we are back from a short break to come back and talk about the transfers coming in to Arsenal this year. We'll start off with Kai Havertz. Now, obviously, Havertz is going to be has made the move across London from Chelsea to Arsenal for around 65 million, I want to say. Expensive deal for somebody who hasn't been that good, I'm going to be honest. I was kind of expecting him to move this summer for like 30, because I don't see a player in Havertz. I don't think he's that good at all. I've heard differing things from different people saying, Havertz is going to be played as a 9, Havertz is going to be played as a 10, he's going to be played out on the wing, he's going to be played as an 8. I've heard someone say. What's going on with Kai Havertz?
Well, yes, I think everyone expects him to go for a lower fee than that, no matter where he went. But I suppose Mikel Arteta has gained a bit of a reputation at Arsenal as the kind of I can fix you manager with the players he signs. Odegaard, Zinchenko, even Jesus. Quite a few players. I mean, obviously Granit Xhaka, players that have been at Arsenal and have really just changed their reputation, changed how people see them, because they've just improved drastically. And I think Arteta, he's really bought the fans in. And we should. He's bought the faith that he deserves that now. You know, at this point, he deserves the faith that the fans have in him to make a signing like this. And most Arsenal fans think, well, I think he'll be a success because Arteta clearly has a plan for him. What I'd say about, I think the talk about his versatility is overdone, and many Chelsea fans will probably tell you that he can't really play right wing, as in when he has played there he's looked a bit average. And I would say that I can only see him playing in that left 8 role for Arsenal. And I think it's going to be it's not going to be the same as the way Granit Xhaka played it, of course.
No.
And I think it actually has, Havertz's signing in a lot of ways kind of relied on the Declan Rice signing, because of how assured he is defensively, and of course Havertz isn't going to bring you the same defensive qualities as Granit Xhaka did, but obviously that's not what he's brought in for. I think you look at the way that Man City have set up their midfield for the last 5 years or so, since Pep's been in there. They've had David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, or Gundogan and De Bruyne, and Phil Foden playing in midfield, and there's not. You know what I mean? It's Rodri or Fernandinho have been left to do most of the work themselves. And no one ever questions it, you know what I mean? Even though if you saw any other team do that, you'd think this is outrageous, defensively just completely went out the door. But I think it's just a part of the evolution of Arteta's midfield, So, and what I'd say as well is that Kai Havertz has not really played his proper position at Chelsea. At all, almost. He's had a very difficult time since he got there. He said himself that he's had a real difficult time adapting to London without his family. Of course, COVID happened in his first season, and in that time he was getting coached by bloody Frank Lampard. So I can't imagine that would have been easy as well.
No.
He did thrive a lot more under Thomas Tuchel, but even then he was never playing in his natural role. He played as a false 9, and that's where he's played for most of his career at Chelsea, because Chelsea have just been an absolute mess in the last few seasons, and they've not signed a proper number 9. And
well, they tried.
Yeah, I mean, they have done. Yeah, they got Lukaku in, and 2 months later he said he wanted to leave, so that wasn't exactly
great signing.
Was it? So, yeah, brilliant signing. I mean, fuck. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was terrible. That just slipped out there.
It's fine. I've long got rid of that rule because it's too much effort.
No, fair enough. And yeah, I'm honestly quite excited about the signing because there's very little expectation on him almost, because everyone just seems to think, well, this is a disaster of a signing. Like, what is Arteta doing? But I think Arteta has really built that relationship with the fans where we can really be excited about anyone that comes in. You know, we could probably sign bloody, I don't know, Harry Winks or something, someone awful like that, and we'd still be excited. So, sorry, just for that slide deck.
Harry Winks is an excellent player, don't we? All about
it. No. I think, Arteta has the goodwill of the fans that we can be excited about almost anyone coming through the door, and there's no doubt that Havertz has plenty of qualities that I think can actually improve that midfield role and increase that goal tally to 95 100 goals instead of 88. I think we finished on 88 goals at the end of last season, and Arteta's always said you need to score 95 to 100 goals to win the league.
I'll agree with that.
And Havertz, we don't have much of an aerial presence, and he scored 30% of his goals at Chelsea with headers.
Fairly tall as well. People forget. Yeah,
very tall, 6'3".
6'3", yeah.
Yeah, he's a tall lad, and you see, most of his goals are headers when you see at Chelsea. He's a very good hitter of the ball. It's something we don't have, and his late runs into the box are very similar to the run that Granit Xhaka was making last season. I suppose we're really trying to see the evolved version of a Bayer Leverkusen Havertz than we are instead of a Chelsea Havertz, because he's not really been the same player at Chelsea. He's never really been given the chance to. So.
No, and I'd argue that's who you're signing. I would argue based off his, you're not signing based off Chelsea. You're signing a Bayer Leverkusen Havertz who's taken a couple of years to do whatever. It's not the Chelsea Havertz you're signing. We've done this with players in the past. We did it with Yannick Vestergaard. Signed him because of his time before Southampton, and we look how that turned out. Cheers, recruitment team. But with Havertz, it's one of them. I think he will do okay. Do you think he'll do well enough to justify the price tag, though?
I mean, justifying the price tag doesn't really matter if you're winning titles. That's what I'd say.
No,
I mean,
doesn't matter.
Or if you're winning things, you know what I mean? Like, no one talked about Virgil van Dijk's price when he won the league with Anfield and Liverpool, and no one talked about. To be fair, very little people talked about Kai Havertz's fee at Chelsea when he won the Champions League final for them. So he comes up in clutch moments, and at the end of the day, this is just kind of the price you pay for talented players these days. You're not. It's very rare that you'll sign someone for 20 million and get a really good player. As much as he's not been the guy for Chelsea and the Bayer Leverkusen player that he was at Chelsea, he's still got Premier League experience, and he's still scored, I think his lowest Premier League tally was 7 Premier League goals. And, if you can adapt that to midfield, that would be absolutely fine. You know what I mean? Granit Xhaka scored 7 last season, but I think Havertz is capable of more than that, of course. I think, of course, 65 million, when you hear that at first, especially when you think of all the negatives that you could talk about with Kai Havertz, you think, well, this is just nuts. But then, at this point, like, genuinely, if you're in my mind right now, you can my state of mind, I'm not even really thinking about 65 million and getting worried about it, because I'm just thinking about the player. And I have a lot of faith in Arteta that he's got this right.
Fair enough, and we'll move on to a midfield partner for Kai Havertz, Declan Rice. Now, how many Rice jokes am I going to use? Not too many, hopefully. But again, this is another player you could say you're overpaying for. 105 million. It's more than what people expected Rice to go for. People were probably talking. Well, West Ham fans were saying 100 plus, but pundits and people like that, were saying he's an £80 million player. West Ham did hold out for that 100 million, which was definitely helped by the fact that they won the Conference League. If they wouldn't have won the Conference League, you possibly could have got him for 70, 80 because they wouldn't have had Europa League football next season.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Declan Rice isn't yet official, but he is as close as you can be to official, and it wouldn't surprise me if we wake up tomorrow morning and he's holding an Arsenal shirt. Give me your overview on Declan Rice.
What I'd say, I think he's an outstanding player, and you saw his leadership skills on the way to that Europa Conference final, and also the way that they pushed out of relegation at the end of the season. You saw him really stand out. What I would say about the price tag is that, yes, he's probably, on paper, 70, 80 million pound player, but I'd say that's the same about Jude Bellingham. I'd say that's the same about, like you see some of the crazy signings. Jack Grealish probably wasn't a 100 million pound player.
Look at
but the reality is...
Look at Paulinho. Fulham have quoted, 90 million for him?
Yeah, that's nuts. And that's the thing. I think what's more important is the value of that player to the player that want to sign him and the player they're selling. Sorry, the club that they're selling, not the player that they're selling. You know what I mean? Like for West Ham, 80 million for Declan Rice isn't that much in terms of it's you're not really going to be able to replace him that well with 80 million pounds. Whereas if you get 100 million pounds or 105 million pounds, whatever way you want to put it, you can go inside two players about 50 million pounds and then really try and replace what he brings to the midfield.
Yeah, of course.
And I think for us, that is fine. You know what I mean? If we were paying 120 million, I'd say this is silly. We shouldn't have paid that much. But 105 million, he is of that value for us because, it was made clear in January that he was our priority target for the summer, and we've been talking to him ever since. It's clear how much we wanted him. We really put in that work behind the scenes so that when City came in, Declan Rice pretty much told them that he really only wants Arsenal, which is pretty nuts to say to come back and say that to the treble winners, It says a lot about, the groundwork that we put in and how much we did to try and convince him of the project that we're building. And I think he is... Yes, 105 million is crazy. It's a big fee. I think it's the biggest ever fee for a British player. Maybe Jude Bellingham might be more.
It's an add-ons thing from what I've heard. It depends on what add-ons Jude beats and what add-ons... I presume there's add-ons in the Declan Rice deal as well. Right. What add-ons Declan Rice meets. It depends, but he will be one of the most expensive. And if you're losing out to Jude Bellingham, there's not much harm in that because Jude Bellingham is such an excellent player. Do you think he'll be a success? I presume. Obviously, I don't think I haven't heard any Arsenal fans saying Declan Rice will fail at Arsenal. I don't think you sign somebody like this to with people having any concerns on it. Yes, it might be a little bit too much, but nobody's going he's going to absolutely flop. However, how much of a success do you think he'll be? Do you think he'll go down in the levels of Vieira? Or, how successful do you think he will be?
I think isn't it a really interesting point to, like, what is success, right? Obviously, when you pay such a fee for a player, it's very hard for a player to really justify that price tag, as you can see with all the, like, if you look at the top 10 transfers of all time, a lot of them have been what you'd consider flops. Even if they've not been terrible for their team, they might have been actually quite good, but to justify a price tag like that is very difficult. But having said that, out of all those players that I've seen on that list, I think Declan Rice is someone that could really prove that he is worth that for Arsenal. Because what you're getting is, you're not just getting Declan Rice the player, you're getting Declan Rice the personality. And we're obviously losing... I know that sounds silly, personality for 105 million.
No, but I know what you mean.
But we're very likely to lose Granit Xhaka this summer, although there are some reports coming out the last day or so that we might keep him because we're not getting him for the value that we'd like. But if we do indeed lose Xhaka, obviously he's a great player, but we're losing a huge personality in the dressing room, and a lot of people would have said that Granit Xhaka was kind of like the captain without the armband last season. As much as Odegaard's been a great leader, he's not like the one that's going to scream at you in the dressing room, But
No, and you do need that.
Declan Rice has proven to be a brilliant leader for West Ham. He was he was essentially the captain of West Ham for the last few seasons, but because of how little Mark Noble played. But he's a brilliant leader. He's 24 years old, so you're probably getting him for at least 6 or 7 years. Assuming that we can get another contract with him. This is assuming that he definitely does join. But I mean, of course he's going to join. But yeah, you know what I mean? You're getting him for maybe 7-8 years at least. That's until he's about 31 or 32. And you could even go beyond that. And when an English player joins from a slightly smaller club in the Premier League to one of the top teams, it's very rare they end up moving on unless, for example, like Chelsea, you finish 12th and then Mason Mount ends up leaving.
Or Real Madrid come in. If Real Madrid come in it. To be fair, I guess Rice doesn't seem the kind of guy that would care that much about Real Madrid. He doesn't scream to me a Real Madrid player. If Bayern come in at the age of 28, he might fancy it.
Yeah, you never know. But of course, my point is that if he is 28, you'd be getting great value for him at that point, probably. I imagine if Bayern and Real Madrid were still interested in him. I do expect him to be a very good signing. It's really hard to predict what Arsenal are going to do in the next few years. I think we're a really good young team, so saying whether he's going to be like a Vieira or like a real Premier League legend, to be honest, I think he will. But of course, to predict that at this point, we've not actually seen him put on an Arsenal shirt yet.
It's mental.
Is pretty difficult. But yeah, I do expect him to have a real legacy once he leaves here.
You like him then? You're happy? 2 signings for 2 so far successes.
For sure.
That's good news. I mean, a midfield of what? Odegaard, Havertz and Rice next season. Do you think it's good enough to win the league?
What I'd honestly be more concerned about is probably depth. Mainly because, of course, we're losing Xhaka. I mean, it looks very likely. And we are kind of relying very heavily on Emil Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira to up their game next season. Unless we go and sign someone else. I think there's a good chance that if Partey leaves, because we've got Declan Rice and Jorginho, we might see sort of a hybrid 6-8 come in, maybe Romeo Lavia has been linked. Of course, Cancelo has been linked, but I think he's just reached a ridiculous a price that we just can't afford. Maybe a Romeo Lavia or someone else that can kind of play both roles.
Graven Birch, depending on how much you'd be quoted for him, if that's 40, 50 odd, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
someone who can do both.
Yeah, for sure. I think I do quite like the Havertz, Odegaard, Rice. I think it's a good midfield, but it's going to be really interesting because there is a big adaptation that's going to happen with this midfield because Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey were mainstays in the team last season, and there's a good chance that both of them aren't going to be here next season, which seems pretty ludicrous if you told us that 6 months ago. But yeah, no, it's quite hard to predict because as I said, it's going to be a very different midfield. The way we set up is going to be different. The player profile will be very different.
Of course.
Smith-Rowe and Havertz playing in that left-8 role, I think, very different player to Granit Xhaka. So, hard to say about winning the league in that. But I think, once again, we've got to have that faith in Arteta because, he's done some pretty wonderful things to this team so far.
Okay. I think I'll push for an answer because I've realised this will make a really, really good Instagram reel. So, one word answer. Do you think a midfield of Havertz, who are the other two? Rice and Odegaard. Right, we're going to go again.
Start again if you're going to make an Instagram reel for this.
This is staying in the podcast as well.
No, I like it.
They can listen to the behind the scenes of me doing an Instagram reel. The amount of times I sit there and go, what? Nope, I'm not happy with that. Nope, go again. Nope, hand movement was wrong. Let's go. Mate, there's 20 odd takes, one of them. You should appreciate the special Instagram reel, guys. Right. Right. One word answer. You spoke, we're going again. Here's the beyond. This is Daniel Talks Football behind the scenes, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for quality content. One word answer. Will a midfield of Havertz, Odegaard and Declan Rice be enough to win Arsenal the Premier League title?
Yes, it Will.
Hey.
Hold on, that wasn't really one word. Yes.
It's fine.
There we go.
Because then, then we could have people in the comments going, this isn't one word. Soak it in. Drink in the comments.
Oh, I can't wait to see. We're going to change the Kai Havertz song from Chelsea to "He won Arsenal the Premier League." It's not going to be Champions League anymore, So it's going to happen.
It's fine. We change songs now to winning the championship, so it's fine. Although I'm really excited to go to Preston North End next season and sing to their fans that Jamie Vardy's won more than they have and ever will win in their history. So it's one of them, isn't it? And then last but not least, it's a man who's going down, and it's a man who's yelling timber. Yoey and Timber.
Very good. Very good.
I didn't make one Declan Rice joke, alright? So I had to.
Fair enough. You had to give that.
I had to get at least one in there. Yoey and Timber, joining from Ajax. It's pretty much done, isn't it, at this point? We'll talk as if it is, because it looks like it's going to be done. When Arsenal want a player as well, they usually get him. Bar certain Ukrainian wingers. Who they really enjoy flirting with, but no official bids or any use. Yoey and Timber, thoughts on this one? Because I'm gonna be honest, where does he fit?
Well, I mean, all you have to do is look at the absolute implosion we had last season to see where he fit. Because
is he a backup then?
Well, I have a lot to say about the term backup.
Okay. Here we go.
Genuinely, it's a very common term, obviously, in football, but I think it's an innate term at this level. At the top six, you need to have rotation options. I prefer the term rotation. Absolutely, because I mean, I wouldn't even say he's a rotation player. You sign players these days. You got to sign players that you think can take over players in your first team, and then that's how you get competition.
Okay.
A lot of people that have watched him a lot more than I have would say that Jerry and Timber would start over Ben White. I would say Ben White. I've not seen much of Jerry and Timber. He looks very good on those compilations, but so can anyone.
Yes.
But yeah, I'd say Ben White's been brilliant this season. So I think that's exactly what you need for competition. And he can play centre back and right back to a very high level. William Saliba and Tomiyasu were the two players that came out with injuries at the worst time of the season, and he can cover both of those roles. And a lot of people will point to the fact that our defence wasn't too sharp when William Saliba was in the team in the second half of the season, which I think is a valid point. But that is people forgetting how good William Saliba is actually on the ball, especially in comparison to Rob Holding, who really, really struggled on the ball last season, especially with the levels raised in our back line in terms of playing out from the back. He just couldn't cope with it. And
no.
I see a lot of people judging him and getting angry at him. It's not really fair.
It's just not his kind of player.
It's not his fault. Yeah, it's not his fault that he isn't suited to this team anymore. And yeah, I'm really excited about the signing. And it's actually been quite funny because everyone's been so stressed about this Declan Rice transfer because of all the talk of Man City coming in, that people have almost forgotten that Kai Havertz was just announced a few days ago and Jerry and Timber's pretty much done too. So yeah, Arsenal are on a bit of a mad run, and Jerry and Timber looks like a top player, and I'm very excited.
For sure. I mean, it's a strange one. I think with Timber, he's going to be a good player. Obviously, he has been good for Ajax from the little bits of Ajax I've seen. He should be a very, very good player. In terms of that idea of him being I'm not going to say backup, rotational option.
Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Does he start on the first day of the season?
You know what? It's just going to come down to what we see in pre-season.
Okay.
I wouldn't be particularly surprised. Like, Arteta has been ruthless with this team, and players that you'd expect to just start every game last season. Kieran Tierney, he was one of the most important players for us for the last few seasons, and then Zinchenko came in straight away. So it wouldn't be particularly surprised if he starts first day of the season.
And he can play at right back as well, from what I've heard. Obviously, there's the talk of that competition there with Ben White, who's kind of been a centre-back / been rotation with Tomiyasu for this season. Do you see Timber primarily coming in as a centre-back to then push Ben White out to the right? Or do you see Timber even possibly coming in to rotate with Timber as we discussed before, that part of the elbow who tucks into the back three before you let Zinchenko push up into the midfield?
I did remember. I forgot about the elbow.
You've missed the elbow, haven't you?
No, I love the elbow. But yeah, Jurriën Timber. I expect him to play more at right back, based on this. So last season we came in for Lisandro Martinez, right? Mm-hmm. Mostly played as a centre back at Ajax, but we wanted him to play as an inverted left back.
Okay.
And I think that is largely due to his height and his aerial winning abilities.
To be fair, if that
Timber's not tall either.
If that could have happened, you could have tucked him into the left-hand side of the elbow and you could have pushed the right-hand side up. So that would make sense. Yeah,
exactly. And I think I see the same with Timber. Of course, he's a little bit taller than Lisandro Martinez, but his aerial win rate is like really poor for a defender. Timber, or for a centre back at least. Mm-hmm. So. I imagine he'll play right back because a lot of his qualities as a centre back do fit to playing at right back as well, especially the way that we play our right backs, very inverted and I think I can see him playing there, and then maybe Ben White playing more of a centre back role next season.
More of a centre back role. Okay, that's an interesting one then. Ben White in at centre back. So then I guess it's Ben White who possibly do. You've got some very good rotation options now in that defence. I still think, I mean, the right back and centre back slots you've kind of sorted now. You brought in that Kivior. Oh, it's a V. Oh, he's posh. You brought in him as well. I don't know if he's any good. He was supposed to be. I heard he was like a bright talent, but also then I looked and he was like 23. I was like, bright talent, but he's. Yeah, I don't know if he's actually 23, but he didn't like make me think, he's a bright talent. I don't know if he stays or gets a loan out or something, but either way, you've got some very good centre-back options there. Left-back, you're sorted. Goalkeeper, you are obviously sorted with that Ramsdale guy. Midfield, you're sorted. And it's the attack where you're not sorted. Now, Piers Morgan. And then you probably didn't expect
There we go. There we go.
And then you probably didn't expect to hear come out of my mouth tonight. Piers Morgan said that Arsenal, we'll do this as a reel, because Piers Morgan straight away gets people watching, doesn't it? Piers Morgan said that Arsenal should sign Osimhen as a new striker. He said he really liked the signing of Declan Rice, but he said they really needed to go out and get a big striker to challenge for the title. What do you think of that?
Okay, let's just get this straight. I want you to bleep this, but Piers Morgan is a top class. Alright? He is an absolute. I despise him, alright? I've got him blocked on Twitter, so I don't see any of this Victor Osimhen stuff.
Okay.
I think Victor Osimhen's a great player.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, listen, we've spent a lot of money this summer, and he'd cost upwards of 120 million, so it's just, we shouldn't expect Arsenal to be making a signing like that. It'd be brilliant if we did. But yeah, I think that might be the type of signing we wait for next summer.
Okay.
Because you can't spend that much money in one summer.
No.
Unless you're Chelsea, we're not like Stan Kroenke. We're just not that type of team.
No,
we're supposed to be. What's the term? So I'm thinking self-funded. Obviously, isn't the term. But
not
we're supposed to be. But essentially we're supposed to be using all the money that's coming straight from the club and not really using much from the owners.
No.
So to spend that much money on Osimhen, it would probably have to be a giant loan from KSE. So, maybe the season after this, we could expect a high-profile attacking signing, but not now. And Piers Morgan can go do one.
I've never had to bleep anything before. It's usually just been edited out. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there. I do want to
bleep it for the culture.
I know. I don't know how to bleep, so I'm going to have to do some research into that. I think.
But you could probably just mute. You could probably just mute that section.
No,
like
it's not. It's
section.
not. It's not as interesting. It's gonna find a way to stay in.
Nice.
It's gonna find a way to stay in. But yeah, there we go. Piers Morgan is a yeah. On that note, because I can't say that.
No, fair enough.
Who
would dare? Who would dare?
If I want to go into journalism, that is not something I can be saying. On that note, though, we will take a short break before we come back to do a keep, sell, loan on all of Arsenal's players. We are back with the final segment. Am I being quieter? Yes. Is that because it's 10 to 11? Yes. We'll start off. Well, we're going to do a keep, sell, loan on all the Arsenal players here. So we're going to go through each of the Arsenal players and decide whether Arsenal should be keeping them, selling them, or loaning them out this summer. It's quite an easy principle. If you don't understand it, why are you listening? Go learn something. We'll start off with Aaron Ramsdale. Do you think it's quite obvious, but what should Arsenal be doing with Ramsdale this summer?
I mean, yeah, we can keep it short relatively here. Obviously keep quality player, suits our style, and he's still very young. So, no problems with that.
Exactly. We'll move on to the next goalkeeper, Matt Turner. Obviously came with a lot of, I wouldn't say hype, but he didn't want to sign a Spurs shirt. That's all you really need, to be honest. What do you think to Turner?
I think interesting. Obviously, backup keepers is always it's an interesting topic because there's only so long you can really want to be a backup goalkeeper. And I expect us to keep him again. And I think we should keep him for one more season. And then I expect, because he is a very good goalkeeper, I expect him to go try and find some game time next season with the US World Cup and stuff coming up, and you need to go get playing time. So I say keep. Okay.
And then the final goalkeeper, Ronaldo, a guy who was actually on loan at Leicester's feeder club, Oliverne, either last season or the season before. So I know a little bit about him, but I imagine that would be a loan or a sell.
Absolutely 100% sell. He only played like maybe 3 or 4 games for us, and he was absolutely terrible. Obviously a young goalkeeper, but yeah, I've got no energy to want to keep him at all. So
surprisingly, not that young, 28.
28? Oh my god, I definitely thought he was younger than that. He's got a real baby face, so
definitely sell.
Seems younger than that.
Definitely still have no potential. 28, yeah, time to get him gone. We'll start off with one of the centre backs who has just got a new contract in William Saliba.
I mean, as you said, new contract. There's no other word to say other than keep. He's a brilliant player. I don't think there actually really needs to be anything more said about that. Keep.
No, fair enough, and I presume that'll be the same as well for Gabriel.
Yeah, I do want to also say that about how underrated Gabriel is, though, because I think. Of course, William Saliba gets all the hype because he's just got that aura about him. You know, he's got that Van Dijk-esque, like just casual style to his play almost. And Gabriel can come across as a bit more rash and, like he doesn't look as composed, but he is a brilliant defender. Keep.
For sure. And then we'll touch on a guy who we did actually speak about earlier on in Kivior. Kivior, that's it. Yeah, the Polish guy.
He's actually. I know you said you didn't see much of him, but he did play a decent bit in the last maybe 5 games of the season.
Okay.
And he was actually quite good. He looked really, really great on the ball. He played out of position. For most of it as well. He played right centre back because we were so eager to not play Rob Holding at that point that we played 2 left-footed centre backs, which is like a sin in Pep Guardiola tiki-taka football.
Yeah.
He did really well. He adapted to that really well. Looked very composed, and I imagine we'll actually see a lot more of him next season. Maybe even in like a left back role, which he did play in the last couple of games of the season, where we tried playing. We did like the Partey at right back, and we did Ben White, Gabriel, and Kivior, and it was like the inverted fullbacks, and it actually worked fairly well despite losing to Forest. We played the same defence against Wolves and won like 5-0. I think he's a really good player, and I think we've still got a lot to see from him, so I'd say keep.
Okay, and is he... Yeah, I mean... No loan, possibly? Get him a loan, get him a season full of game time, or do you think another year under Arteta would be the better approach?
I just can't see it being a loan, to
Okay.
be honest, because it would take signing another left centre back. We've only got two left centre backs. I expect him to stay.
Fair enough, for sure. And then we move on to Trusty.
Really interesting. Trusty of the process is a phrase that's been used a lot amongst Arsenal fans.
Of course.
And he looked like he's done really well for Birmingham in the Championship, and well done to him, because I think a lot of people when he signed, he was quite literally signed just for improved relations between US clubs and Arsenal. I mean, it's the same. He came from the Colorado Rapids, which is also owned by KSC, so slightly political signing. But, I mean, he's done really well in the Championship, and good luck to him. But I think we're probably best off cashing in now, because I can't imagine he's going to have a future at Arsenal.
24.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe. I wouldn't be fuming if we loaned him out again. It's not like we're going to get a huge fee for him anyway. So, I think, either way, loan or sell. But I imagine Arsenal will cash in. So I'll say sell.
And another man who it might be time to cash in on. It's the man who. It's the hair man. Do I even need to give you a name?
The hair man.
The hair man. Rob Holding.
I tell you what, he's obviously capable of some incredible comebacks, as we've seen with his hairline.
Of course.
But I'm not sure he's capable of a comeback into the Arsenal team now. I just can't see it. Like he's I don't think he's a terrible player, but I don't think he's very suited to the way Arsenal play. I also don't think he's particularly suited to modern football, if you know what I mean. So, like a lot of Arsenal fans are saying, like, oh, he'd do great in most other teams. I sort of disagree on that, because he doesn't have many favourable qualities of a really modern centre back, because he's not that quick, and he's not great on the ball. But I still think he could have a place in a low block. He's very good in a low block, and he's been effective off the bench in that regard. So for the right team, he could still be good, but definitely not at Arsenal anymore. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've signed Connor Cody.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Connor Cody and Holding is a back to? Very Brexit.
I think in terms of pace, you'd just be outdone by one ball over the top, so I'd be a bit concerned in that regard. So maybe not. But I suppose if you didn't get Cody, I think Rob Holding wouldn't be a bad replacement option. So
fair enough. We'll move it into left back now with three left backs. The first one of these being the Ukrainian international. I guess he's still international, even though they don't really do much nowadays, that national side. Alexander Zinchenko.
Yeah, I mean, he was brilliant last season, and I know a lot of people would have questioned his defensive abilities at the end of the season. He did have some poor moments. I think he did definitely go out of form, and probably around March, April, before he had I think he may have had an injury and he wasn't playing a little bit. At the end of the season he did have a bit of an injury. But yeah, no, he is so good. His on the ball ability is so understated, probably from a lot of Arsenal fans, because I think we got so used to how good he was that we really started to notice his defensive lapses and like his lack of quality in the defensive area. It's certainly not what he's best at, but he overcomes that with the quality he brings to us in position. He's a really good player. And I think it's going to be good next season having different options, because I think Zinchenko's great at opening up teams, but maybe against those bigger sides, against Liverpool, against Man City, as you saw Man City do this season, you might be better off playing a more defensive-minded player in those fullback areas. Like, I mean, Jakub Kiwior played there at the end of last season, or maybe Tomiyasu played at left back a bit, and he's very capable of doing that. I think Zinchenko maybe will be used a bit more sparingly next season, just because, as you've seen with Man City this season, it shows to be really effective when you really focus on defending those wide areas really well. And we've got the players to do that. So, I'd say keep, but maybe used a little bit more sparingly.
Okay, fair enough. Next up, we've got Kieran Tierney, Scottish left back. However, apparently he was born on the Isle of Man. I've only just learnt. So there's a new one for you. Kieran Tierney, what do you think is going to happen here? Obviously, the hope would be to keep him because he's a good left back, but do you think you will be able to keep hold of him?
Tell you what, he's a very good player. I don't think anyone doubts his quality. And Newcastle obviously have shown their interest this summer, but it seems to sort of die down over the last month or so. We haven't really heard too much of it. There's been talks about Newcastle being linked with Theo Hernandez, I think, from AC Milan, but that'd be a very expensive signing after just signing Tonali as well. I think it's a case of that he will go because I think Newcastle are just kind of biding their time because Arsenal would probably set a fairly high price tag on Tierney, understandably, and probably just kind of waiting till it gets further down the window and not just straight away saying we'll pay that, even though they probably could, because that sets a precedent for other teams. If they want to sign someone and they go and sign Kieran Tierney straight away for 40 million, then every other team's going to say, "Will you pay this because you've got the money?" So they have to have some discipline and try and act like they're not richer than most countries. But yeah, I think a lot of Arsenal fans would like him to stay, and I think he's a great player, but I'm not sure he really fits into what we want to do, because I think if Arteta really wanted him, he would have used him a lot more last season, I think, and he got used very sparingly. He's a very good player, but I just don't see him in Arsenal's plans. So I think for him, it seems like he really wants to move closer to Scotland, and he's a real family man. And Newcastle is as close as you'll get in the Premier League to Scotland. It might as well be Scotland.
It works,
that
doesn't
close.
it?
So yeah, I think it seems like the perfect move for him, and he's too good, I think, to be barely used in a season. And yeah, I think it's a perfect move for him. So I'd say sell.
Okay, and then obviously if you are to sell Kieran Tierney, then you've got a spot at left back. Will that be filled by Nuno Tavares?
Absolutely not. Listen, he's obviously talented. Like he showed at the start of the season for Marseille how good he is. Going forward, he can be at least. I think he scored something about 6 or 7 goals. So it was pretty unreal from left wing back. But that's the thing. He's a wing back. He cannot defend to save his life. He doesn't he's just not disciplined at all. He doesn't seem to really understand that part of the game. And when he played for us last season, he just showed he was just too much for a liability. He had quality. He could cause a lot of problems for teams, because I think the funny thing with him is that it's almost like he doesn't know what he's doing. So how the hell can the defense that's defending him know what he's doing? So he's just like such a chaotic player, that it's very hard to defend. Similar to like Nicolas Pepe almost. It seems like both of them don't really know what they're doing, so the defense can't know either. But yeah, no, I don't think he really fits into the way we play. He has potentially a bright future. There's rumours about him in West Ham. I'm not sure how much I buy that, but yeah, I'd definitely sell him.
So okay, and then we move across to right back, where we start off with Ben White, who we've kind of discussed as a centre back, but also a right back, but we'll put him here anyway. Ben White.
He's quality. He's brilliant. He can play right back and centre back. And yeah, as much as I rambled on about Nuno Tavares, there's not much rambling that needs to go on here. So let's just say keep.
Yeah, fair enough. Tomiyasu.
He's a more interesting one because of his injury proneness, if that's a word. But yeah, he's a quality player when he does play. Very versatile. I'm not sure if you're aware of a guy called Gunner Blog on Twitter. He's a athletic writer and great podcaster. He often describes Tomiyasu as the fifth man in defence. Essentially, he could play anywhere across the back line, and he would do a very good job at it. So he is the ideal player to have as a rotation option. You could literally plop him in anywhere in that back line and he would do a good job, but it's a matter of keeping fit, really. I think the season's actually quite a big season for him, to see if he really can stay fit for most of the season, because it gets to a certain point where, as much as a player is absolutely brilliant, if they're not fit for most of the season, then what is the point? You can't rely on them. Availability is the best ability.
For sure.
And yeah, so I'd say keep, but I think it's a big season for him.
Keep, and then if that season doesn't go well, then would it be a sell?
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be a conversation to be had.
For sure. And then the next right back. I can almost guarantee we're going to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Cedric Suarez.
I mean, there was rumours coming out about a month ago saying that he wants to stay and fight for his place. And I thought, you know what? Fair enough. I would too. Because you couldn't even get game time at Fulham. So I can't imagine you getting game time at Arsenal. And,
I want to fight for a place at Arsenal. Doesn't mean I can, I want to.
I'm pretty sure he's on 60 or 70,000 pounds a week, and there's no way he's getting that anywhere else. So I think that's fair enough, unless he gets a move to Saudi Arabia. You know, Al Nassr, if you want to come in and give us 20 million for Cedric, we'll take that any day of the week. So absolutely sell, and hopefully it's to a Saudi club
for sure. And then we move on to another man who's been linked with the Saudi club, Thomas Partey.
This is really interesting, right? Obviously a quality player. But similar to Tomiyasu, his availability is so questionable that he seems to disappear, whether it's injuries or form, in the biggest parts of the season. I do think this in the last few games of the season, he was probably half injured, and they just tried to kind of keep him going because I'm not sure if you're aware, but over the international break with Ghana, Arsenal's physio came with him and travelled with him. So It seems like he was playing with an injury, and he got dropped pretty quickly after a few games after the international break, and Jorginho came in and did very well. If I'm being honest here, his lack of availability is so frustrating. We've just got Declan Rice in, who seems to stay fit for the entire season, and Jorginho is a very worthy backup. And yeah, I think I'd be happy to sell at the right price.
Okay.
But
what is the right price?
The right price for him would have to be above £20 million, because I'm not willing to see Juventus spending 17 million euros and stuff as the talk. Like, come on. Like, I think we have to probably get an offer from Saudi Arabia, or Juventus are actually going to have to cough up some money for once. So
Juve can cough up money. They saw Pjanic at 31 for like 60. So they Juve, you're tight.
They love a bargain though, don't they?
They do love their free transfers. Do you remember that summer when they signed all those free transfers and none of them worked?
Aaron Ramsey.
what a player. Moving on from Partey to another defence midfielder, Jorginho. Now I've seen some rumours about him leaving. I've seen some rumours about Arteta really wanting him to stay. I have a feeling I know where you are on this, because you are actually a semi-clued up Arsenal fan. But what do you think about Jorginho?
So obviously there were some rumours about him leaving. Lazio were being talked about, but recently those were crushed by his agent. Jorginho's agent came out and said that he really wants to stay at Arsenal. He loves the project and he's not going to Lazio. So and I'm absolutely happy to hear that. Obviously, especially if we are losing Xhaka or Partey this summer, you're making the squad even younger. And as much as those young players are pretty experienced, there's you got to have some higher age profiles in the team to, players that have been there and done that, and Jorginho is the definition of that. So, really happy. He despite some people and some meme accounts on Twitter trying to say that Agent Jorginho, when he came in, Arsenal bottled it. If you really did watch Arsenal last season, you would have seen how effective he was when he did play, and how committed he was to the team. He just looks like a real leader, and with a squad that is so young, you definitely need a few of those older, experienced players. So for sure keep. There we go. And then
El Neni.
Interesting one again. Been injured for most of the season with I'm not sure if it was an ACL injury, but definitely like a very long-term injury. He was out for the entire season. He's just a great person to have around, and he's very happy with little game time. I mean, he's just he's called Arsenal's family many times before, and there's no problem having him around. He's a great character. He's clearly got a big influence in the dressing room too, because listen, if Arteta didn't rate him or didn't rate what he brings to the team, he wouldn't still be here. He doesn't really complain with very little game time. He's happy to do his role at Arsenal. So keep.
There we go then. And then Granit Xhaka.
Yeah, well, this is interesting. It almost feels like a bit of formality, because he does seem like he's leaving, but
it does.
I was kind of thinking about this the last couple of days, and I think there's been a few people that are saying we really want him to stay. And I when I first heard that he was leaving, I was gutted. And he's a quality player, and I love him, and But I think for the fact that we've signed Havertz and the fact that our other options in midfield are Smith Rowe and Vieira and like a lot more attacking players like Granit Xhaka, I think this might just be the right time to evolve the midfield. I think if Granit Xhaka was to stay now, it would be. I'm not sure how you really rotate Granit Xhaka and Kai Havertz in the team. If you know what I mean, they're very different players. I'm not sure how you really share game time because that's a very different player that you're playing with. So I think maybe the best option now is actually to sell.
Okay.
Because even with a lower price, it's a real shame if we're going to lose him for what they're saying £13 million. He's definitely better than that. But I think it's just a case of the team that we're selling to is the team that he really wants to go to, and I think the way he's performed for us, he has warranted us, giving him the club he wants to go to and making his wish come true.
For sure. And then the final sort of defensive-ish midfielder, I guess you could say, Samuel Konga.
Yeah, he's done very little to convince me that he's good enough for Arsenal. I do think he was given a bit of a hard time playing his first season as backup to Thomas Partey, who was so crucial to the way we played, and then he was obviously just not up to it, and it's very hard to play that number 6 role. It took Partey a long time to play that lone number 6 role, to learn it properly, and for a 22 or 23-year-old, whatever he was in the first season, it was a harsh thing to have to put upon him. But even when he's been given other chances, he just has not looked up to the bill. He doesn't really have that intensity to his game, his defensive awareness to be a 6, and he doesn't really bring enough to the attacking side to warrant playing 8. I think he's a talented player, and it'll be interesting to see. It looks pretty set on that he'll end up at Burnley because of his link to Vincent Kompany and Anderlecht. And I think he's got potential. I think with the right manager, he could really just absolutely be on fire. He's got quality, but yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen at Arsenal, so happy to sell and get a fee for him this summer.
Happy to sell, fair enough. And then we move on to Martin Odegaard, who I can almost imagine what you're going to say here.
Yeah, I mean, there doesn't have to be much of a conversation, Let's just say keep. He's a brilliant
keep.
player, great leader, for sure.
And then Emile Smith Rowe.
Of course, there's been a lot of talk about him,
Yes.
and I love the guy. So even when he was getting linked with a move away and he was barely playing, I've really wanted him to stay, because he's got so much quality. He's got such a unique playing style, and there's not many finishers in the league better than him. I stand by that, because last season, when I say last season, I mean of course 21-22. He was our top scorer, I believe, with 11 goals. Just such a great end product player, very good finisher, always finds himself to be in the right position in the box, and I think that's exactly suited to the way we're going to play with that left 8, with where Granit Xhaka is left and where we're bringing Kai Havertz to play. So I think Smith Rowe and Havertz could really thrive in that position if all goes well. And I'm really excited to see what happens with him. Obviously, he's away with the England under-21s at the moment, and he's looking pretty good for them. He scored a couple goals, and it's just about getting up to fitness, getting up to speed, and I'm really excited to see what he could bring to us next season. So keep.
And then Fabio Vieira.
Did very little to convince Arsenal fans and probably other fans who are preying on Arsenal's downfall that he was good enough for us last season. Showed a lot of promising signs in the Europa League when he first came in the group stages, and he scored a lovely goal against Brentford that's been shared a lot. He's got a lot of talent about him, but he's very slight. You see him playing on the pitch. He's very slight. He's very skinny, small. And he gets pushed off the ball a lot, far too easily. But I don't think, like some Arsenal fans are saying, just get him in the gym, get him beefed up. I don't think that's the solution, because you see players like Bernardo Silva, and you get plenty of players of small stature, and they don't look particularly strong. but they thrive in the Premier League. Even David Silva, of course, is one of the best players to ever play in the Premier League, in the midfield for sure. I think it's just about him adapting to the Premier League. And yeah, potentially it is about getting stronger, but I don't think it's about like bulking up per se.
No.
Like you see someone like Bernardo Silva, he's not bulked up, but he's still strong. You know what I mean? He stays up and he's got real strong. It's a lot to do with the core and having a lot better balance. I think he can do it. It'll be really interesting, but I think it's a really big season for him to prove his worth because, you know, especially because he's playing back up to one of our most important players in Martin Odegaard. I think it's really stand out when he comes in and doesn't perform. So, big season for him. I'd say keep. If we had other options that were more ready, I'd be happy to see him be loaned out to another Premier League team and see him play more often and really give him the chance to get used to the league. But we're not really, we don't really have that option, and I think it's clear that Arteta really rates him from the way he talks about him. So let's say keep for now.
Okay, Martinelli. Can't imagine again what you're going to say.
Yeah, of course, keep. I think he's so underrated as well. Like a lot of people love talking about Saka and Odegaard and William Saliba, but he was a top scorer last season, Martinelli. 15 goals in the league is nothing to be ashamed about, and he's still 21 or maybe he just turned 22, but that's an unreal. I think it's more than Leroy Sané ever hit in the Premier League. It's the most a Brazilian has scored in a Premier League season, tied with Roberto Firmino in the 17-18 season.
Wow.
He's 21.
Wow.
So I think there's a real lack of the media spotlight on him because of, you know, the winger we've got on the other side is England's star boy. You know, I love Bukayo Saka, of course, but I would like a little bit more light to be shed on Martinelli because he's a quality player.
Of course.
And of course, with all this ramble about him, you know, I'm going to say keep. So.
Of course. And then, again, I guess the same will probably be said for Trossard, who was quite good in the second half of the season.
He was. I mean, he had about 10 assists, but only one goal, which is like a really weird statistical thing to look at. But I think, you'll know from the Arsenal-Leicester game, he scored a screamer, and then because of Ben White's bloody antics on the goal line, this goal was ruled out.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder.
It was a really good goal. But then he also, I'm not sure if you watched, you know, the Arsenal 3 Southampton 3, which is a mental game.
Of course,
Trossard
game, yes.
almost scored an absolute worldie to make it 4-3, and it hit the bar. He had a few times where he hit the bar and hit the post, and you know, he's a great striker of the ball, and he showed to be a great creative player as well. I think he's got a lot of quality. It'll be interesting to see what role he plays next season because he pretty much moved all across the front line. He played as a false nine a lot of the time on the left wing, on the right as well when Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli played in that front three when Saka was injured, and he also played as an 8 as well in games where we were struggling and we were really attacking. You put him in midfield. He's got the quality to do that. He's a little bit reminiscent. He's been some Arsenal fans have said like Samir Nasri, Santi Cazorla, like really great balls that sticks to his feet. It'll be really interesting to see what we see from him in a full season at Arsenal next season. Hopefully something similar to the way he ended last season. So, keep.
Fair enough. We've got 8 left now. As it hits 20 past 11. As it hits 20 past 11. Bukayo Saka. I think you might go sell.
Sell. He's rubbish. No, of course, keep. He's absolutely brilliant. And it was brilliant to see some, neutral fans fans of other clubs really just they could not help but praise Saka after his hat trick the other day for England. Some absolute worldies he scored in that game as well. So it's always lovely to see when your players get recognition from other fans as well because it means they can't help but say this guy's brilliant. So
of course,
of course, keep.
Of course, and then another man on the right wing. It's Nicolas Pepe.
For sure, sell. I'm just going to say that straight away. But I do something that is quite funny. You know, like you see, I'm not sure if whoever's on Twitter, whoever watches this, you know, you see the Man United fans that still say that Martial is going to be the guy for them. And Arsenal have this little crowd of fans that do the same for Nicolas Pepe, despite the fact he's done barely anything to warrant that. Martial probably more understandable. He's done a lot more at Man United than Pepe did at Arsenal, but and I think Pepe's really talented, but I just think he's just not the right fit for us. Arteta clearly kind of rates him. He's always spoken quite well of Pepe, but I just don't think he's the right fit. So yeah, I think Sal for best for both parties. Even if we can get a fee for him at all, would be a bonus, considering which is nuts considering obviously we spent what we did on him. But I'm quite thankful to say he is not going to be a record signing for too much longer.
That's good. And then we move on to a young Brazilian called Marquinhos.
Yeah, so he came on, he made his debut against FC Zurich in the Europa League and scored a goal. And then since then just absolutely disappeared. And yeah, we didn't really see much of him after that. And he went on to Norwich, and I heard some good things and some bad things from Norwich fans. But he's young. He's a young Brazilian. He was signed as a bit of a, I think, to kind of improve relations with Arsenal and Sao Paulo. I think that's where we got him from. Just to try and get that relationship working, so that if any other young players come from Sao Paulo in the future, that we're kind of in first. And he could be a good player. I'm not sure. I'm convinced that he has a future at Arsenal, but I think he just seems destined for a loan this season. So I think that might be the first one we've said for a loan.
Quite possibly.
So yeah, we'll say Marquinhos, another loan.
Yeah, I'm looking through. It's possibility the first one we have said. Reece Nelson, a man who is supposedly signing a new contract, which I don't really get.
Sorry, you just cut out for me there.
Reece Nelson next. A man who's supposedly signing a new contract, which I don't really get. Because he doesn't seem that good to me. But what do you think about Nelson?
Yeah, well, at the start of last season, a lot of people were just saying he's a quality player. I mean, he's shown glimpses of quality in the academies, but he's never really done it at men's level, at the top level. But I think it's just been a case he's been pretty damn unlucky in terms of injuries and timing of his moves and his loan deals. And he showed at the second half of last season at the impact he had off the bench. He was brilliant. Obviously, he's always going to have beers bought for him in North London after that goal against Bournemouth. And I think he still has a lot of quality, and I think he could be a brilliant player still for Arsenal. But he's one of those, it's a real potential signing. You don't really know. He's definitely not a guarantee that he's going to be good enough to be the backup for Saka this season, but it looks like he's about to sign a new contract. Yeah, for sure. I do hope. But he's got a lot of quality, and I really hope that he is going to be that guy, because I actually, when he first came into the academy, I loved him so much in the pre-season that I got him on the back of my shirt.
Told me, yeah.
In 17-18, Nelson 61. But yeah, probably just try and tell everyone about that since he scored that goal against Bournemouth. I'm telling everyone that, listen guys, I've got Nelson on the back of my shirt. But yeah, no, I think he could be though. I think it's a lot of that is really up to him and how much he wants it. So I'd say keep.
For sure. And then there's probably two quite easy keeps now. The first is Gabriel Jesus, which it's keep, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it's keep.
And then it's a new signing, Kai Havertz, which I don't think you're going to be selling.
No, of course keep. And for the record, you are missing one player here.
Oh, we've still got two more. We've still got two more.
Okay. I thought you were saying those were the last two.
No. Don't you worry. We've got two more. So in fact, you've missed one yourself. Which one do you think we're going for? Because there's one you've missed.
Well, I thought of Eddie and Kessie, but let me just think for a second.
It's easy.
I can't think.
Balogun.
Of course. Yeah, I was thinking of last season's fun.
Yes, it's Balogun. Let's go for
I feel like this is almost like a combined one, these two together. So, tell you what, I change my mind about this one every day. With it, Kessie or Balogun. Personally, I definitely think it's just a case of the fresh new, brand new toy with Balogun. We've seen Eddie and Kessie at our club for a long time, and he's proven to be fairly effective as a backup. And I know I just said I don't like using the term backup, but Nketiah is very much a backup. He's not going to start over Gabriel Jesus, and I think that's an issue. Whether we're going to resolve that this summer remains to be seen. I don't think we will. I think because of the money we're spending this summer, and because I'm not sure it's going to be... I don't think Balogun's transfer value is going to go up much more than this season after the brilliant season he had in Ligue 1. I think it's probably the smarter thing to do to cash in on Balogun and keep it in Nketiah this summer. Okay. Just because... look... I mean, I'm saying that against what... Like, that's my head talking, you know. My heart says I want to keep Balogun and maybe sell Nketiah. Because Balogun is, shiny new toy. He was brilliant. And, he's an exciting player. But I think the club will be logical here. And I think the best thing to do for the club is probably to sell him and make sure they protect themselves with, sell-on clauses or buyback clauses.
Even put a buyback clause, yes. Put a 60
so
million buyback clause just in case.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be the best solution for both parties, because he's already spoken about how he really wants to play and he does not want to be sitting on the bench at Arsenal. So I think the best thing for him is probably to sell Balogun with a buyback clause and keep Eddie Nketiah this summer.
Fair enough. Well, there we are. That is the keep, sell, loan on the Arsenal squad, and that is also the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I'm absolutely shattered. But thank you for coming on. It's currently 11:30 and I've got work the next 2 days, so it's going to be a fun 2 days. But no, thank you for coming on, mate. Make sure to go follow AFC Fun Nation 2 in case he ever decides to make a return. Which I'm sure might come maybe at some point if he decides to stop touching grass. And I will catch all you guys again in the next pod. See ya.